We're now going to add some forms to our CT viewer. We're not going to actually verify these or anything. We're just going to add some spots for the user to enter some data. So to start, we're going to go to our demographics page. And let's ask for age, gender, certification, and experience. Okay, so go to wherever you pasted your sample page, and for age we're going to use this number input. And so we have two types of text boxes. One takes text and the other only wants numbers. If you're using mobile, this will dictate which keyboard pops up. On desktop, you'll get little arrows with the numbers and an extra little error feedback. That's about it. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to move it into my little palette area. And I'm going to replace sample input num with p demographics age. Replace that. And that's all I have to do for that one. So I'm just going to copy it, go back to V, put that in, fix the tab. Now for gender, let's grab some radio buttons. Go to my palette. For this one, sample input radio becomes p demographics gender. Okay, so this already was a gender question, so I'm good. I don't have to shuffle my males and females, so I'll remove the script. Oops. And hit Control A, C, and fix my tabs. Okay, so for certification, I'm going to do the same thing as with gender. This will be p demographics cert. And replace all. And again, I don't need to shuffle my options, but now I need to actually change my question. So, are you board certified? Okay, and so this will become yes. This will become no. And I need to change the values that get sent to the server, yes and no. And before I forget, actually, I realize I did not do that for my gender, so female, male. Okay, and I don't need an other for this question because it's just yes or no. Okay, and because I removed my other, I also need to make this only check 1 and 2. Control AC and V. Fix my tabs with Shift Tab. Okay, and for experience, go to sample checkboxes, paste it into my palette area. I'm going to take sample input check and replace it with p demographics exp. Okay. And let's say I want to add an option. So I'm just going to copy from this span to this span. Okay. And I need to change my IDs because I've added, I can't have two dim exp3s, so I'm going to change this to 4. Also change that to 4, and I'm going to have to bump all the numbers down, so now I need to change my other to 5, and my none will get changed to 6. Okay, so now when they check none, I want to make sure to clear all the other checkboxes. So that's going to be 1 through 5 now instead of 1 through 4. I need to note up here that I added an option, so now you check options 1 through 6. And other also has a text box. And so if you have other checked but don't have the text box filled out, it'll yell at you. So we need to make sure the IDs are set up properly for that. So we can see we have a 4 still here, so change that to 5. Change that to 5. Okay, and one over here as well. But rather than changing this one manually, you'll notice I have anytime you check any box, it will check whether or not other is valid. So I'm just going to put that into my find and also into my replace. And now, rather than saying exp4, they will all say exp5. Okay, so now these all check the correct checkbox. Same thing with here with this clear checks. Anytime you check any box that's not none, it will make sure none's not checked. So I need to copy and put that in my find box, and also put a copy in my replace, and I'm going to replace this 5,5 with 6,6 because this is now the 6th checkbox. So we'll replace all of those. And I do not need my options to be shuffled, so I'm going to remove this script. Okay, now let's actually change the question. So okay, and since I changed my labels, I also need to change the values that get sent to the server. Okay, and then the other value is always other, none is already none, so we're good there. So let's Control A, C, and go to v.html. And in our experience area, paste it in and fix our tabs. Okay, so I'm going to change my go to page debug button on the first page to just go to p demographics. Refresh my page. Okay, so looks fine. Let me make sure everything gets checked. Okay, so those seem to be pretty reactive. Let's make sure my radio buttons all work. Okay, so this all seems to work. So let's move on to our trial. For this one, we will also be using a group of checkboxes. This is just going to be a simple example. So let's go to where I've cached my sample page. I'm going to hit copy because I'm already selecting the checkboxes, and paste. Okay, and now I'm going to take sample input check and replace this with p trial 1 abnorm. Replace all. Okay, let's see, and I will want these to be shuffled, so I'm going to leave this in this time. And change my values. Okay, and because I didn't actually increase or decrease its size, I don't have to worry about changing any of my IDs. They should all be lined up and perfect. So I'm going to Control AC, and now go down to trial 1 page, paste that in, fix my line break or my tabs. Add a couple line breaks under my title. And let's go to my debug button, change it back to with viewer. So P trial 1. On slice 1, index 1, refresh, go. Okay, so that. Okay, so that seems fine. Let's go to our next page, and this one's going to be more difficult. We're going to have this one have text boxes which pop in and out dynamically as we click on the image. And we're going to have a windowing drop-down. So let's start with our windowing drop-down. We'll go to our sample and pull out our sample drop-down. Put it in my palette area. So I'm going to rename sample drop-down. I don't have to replace all because it's only occurring once. So P trial 1, 2, trial 2, windowing. I'm going to remove my alert, and I'm going to do apply shader this dot value. And so whenever you change it, the value specified here will get piped into this function, which doesn't exist yet. I'm going to remove the full dynamic option. That's something you have to calculate per image, and I haven't really done that. I'm also going to remove all of my custom demo because they have no place out in the real world. And I don't intend on doing any user specified windows, so I'm going to just remove my extra slot. Okay, so let's AC, and I'm going to quickly change to trial 2 in my debug button on index 2. Okay, so in order to make this work, I'm going to go to my scripts, and I'm going to add a couple files. So let's create custom init.js and create custom util.js. Not sure why I did that. Twice. Okay, so in custom init, I'm just going to create some windowing shaders that we're actually going to use. So go to custom.js. This was from our demo. Okay, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom where I've made my shaders. And this init custom is a special function which will get called when the viewer exists and we try to go to it. So let's go to custom init. Also going to add a little debug to my pages. Okay, and I had removed all of the custom shaders, so I don't need those anymore. I had removed full dynamic, so I don't need that one anymore. But I'm going to keep all the rest. I do need to make this initiated once. No, that should be lit. Initiated once equal false. Okay, and to actually add these to our page, we're going to go back to v.html, and up here at the top where we're adding scripts, I'm going to do custom init and custom util. Okay, and now let's go back to custom and find our apply. Oh no, it's set shader. Oh. Okay, and now let's go to custom util, and we're going to make our apply shader function. Okay, and now let's go to our custom util and make our apply shader function. So let's keep track of what shader we're currently using. So let current shader equal off. So we start out with no shader applied. Okay, and if we actually have a new shader, then viewer set shader. And something else we'll want to do is take, we always want to keep those drop downs that we make for setting our shader. We want to keep those in sync with what our shader actually is. Okay, so we had called this ptrial2 windowing. Okay, so let's refresh for viewer. Okay, so that looks fine. Now let's add some instructions for what they should do. So in v.html, let me increase my size a little bit. Make a div. This div will have the class form question. Make this bold. Another line break. And we'll give them a checkbox in case they don't see any abnormalities in the image. So I'm just going to go up here and steal one of my checkboxes. Okay, and this isn't part of a group, so I don't have to worry about doing any error checking, so I'm just going to remove that onClick event. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. Okay, that's not bad. Now I'm going to add an area for adding diagnoses boxes to. Okay, and so whenever I click, I'm going to add some stuff to my utilities here. So let's okay, so when we click we will get a click message which tells us the X, Y, and slice, as well as the time, but we don't need the time. So if we were on our correct image set, okay, so if we're on image set 2, then we will want to split this up and it will be divided by commas. Okay, so we're going to pull a function from custom called add input. This will add our boxes for us. Let's put it in custom util, and we're also going to pull a remove element. Okay, and our add input has a lot of arguments, so we're just going to copy how we had used it in custom.js. Okay, so instead of forcing it on slice 3, I'm going to add the image set, which is also part of our click. So let's do ++. Let's do a 0. Okay, so the first element of our click is the slice, the second is our X, then Y, and then, no, sorry, our set, our image index, I apologize. Slice is the last one. Okay, and we're also going to pipe in a shader. Let's change our hint text. Let's change that to just diagnosis. Let's change the class. We're going to use this for sorting and gathering the data later. So let's change this to ptrial2 diagelms. Okay, let's change this. The ID, we're going to give it to ptrial2. And this is where we're adding it. So this is going to be that div we just made. This one? Nope, this one. There we go. Okay, and I'm not going to worry about validating anything as I type it into our boxes at all. Okay, and we're going to need this highlight click function that's also in custom.js. Okay, so we copy this, go to custom util, and throw it in. So I'm going to remove this. This was basically how in the demo we made our drop-down box stay in sync with our shader, but now we're going to be doing this in apply shader. So basically this takes a shader, a bunch of coordinates, and it will highlight it for us. It will also scroll to it and inject a message into the scroll log saying that it auto-scrolled to a specific slice. Okay, so we need to remove a click now. So that's a lot easier. I'm just going to do the same if viewer. And we're going to remove element. And this will just take the element's name. So we had named it ptrial2, click. And so when remove is called, it's going to give us the same click that it gave us when we added it. It doesn't actually matter where the user clicked, but if they clicked somewhere which removed a previous click, then that's the ID it's going to give. Okay, so before we can actually use these, we need to add them to our events. So in scripts, you will find this viewer events function. Okay, so I am going to replace my demo option with my new one. And same in remove. And because I had removed my demo options, I can now remove these two clicks. Okay, so let's refresh. Let's go to my viewer. Okay, so if I add a click, add the diagnosis, remove the click. Set shader is not defined. Okay, and custom util. Let's go to highlight, set shader, apply shader. Refresh, go, click, click. Okay, so if I am on the long window and I click this, then when I click this, it will take me to the none window because that's what I was on when I clicked. And then I will click this and it will take me to the long window. Okay, so that's good. Now let's move to our next page, and we need to add a comments box. So in our sample input, we have a sample text area. I'm just gonna paste that. Well, I didn't want that comment though, did I? There we go. And let's go down to comments page. Okay, so let's call this P comments box. The name will be also P comments box. Okay, so that's good. And now we got a comments box. And we're done.